Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. The thing that we're going to be covering in this live session are kind of a return to some of the basics, but instead of just doing some different compositions in black ink on like white cardstock to just show some stamp sketching types of applications of the stamps, I figured why not stamp on some pre-printed cardstock, because that kind of lends itself to a finished looking card, just, you know, the very nature of just stamping onto backgrounds that have already been established, because it can represent shadow and light in the background, skies, whatever you want it to be. And it's a pretty good way to go if you want something that's just really simple and I think reasonably dynamic in the time it takes to create these pieces. It's not very much more than just stamping the imagery and just leaving it at that. So just simple types of applications on these papers. And I don't know, it's just really fun to do, I'm finding. I've done it before, but I don't know, I start exploring different things, and some of the I don't know, the techniques get a little bit, I don't know, what are nuanced and layered, such as last week's scene. Okay, so what we have here is some vintage types of papers. It comes in, you know, different types of packs. If you just type in on Amazon or something like that, vintage paper, you'll come up with all kinds of different assortments. I'll put the link of the one that I'm using in the description section when I get around to it. But we have that, and I've cut it down into quarter-size pieces, and then I have this stationery pack here. I don't remember where I got this from. This is 2003, so really quite some time ago. I'm guessing that I bought it at Staples or something like that. So already a patterned perimeter here. It has a little bit of patterning that's very faint in the middle here, so that when you stick this through a printer, you can print out whatever you want on here. It's really meant for the 8.5 by 11 format, but what I've done is I've cut it in half like this, because I thought that that would be kind of a nice vignette around the top of my scene. Okay, if I cut it in a quarter like that with just, you know, two sides of it, I thought that might look kind of strange. So this one's a single-sided. These pieces here are double-sided. So, you know, the same type of thing on both back and front. Okay, so let's see what we can do with these in just some quick and simple applications. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to mention before I get into this is that just stamping on these types of papers and leaving everything very minimal, I guess, would be one of the descriptions, is that I do believe that sticking it on some kind of, I don't know, different type of paper, maybe to contrast against this real extreme simplicity, makes it look really good. So we have this kind of aged looking vintage piece right here, very weathered looking, but paired with something like this gold foil, a metallic, something really reflective. I think that really finished off the card really nicely. And I don't know, it just changed the feel and spirit of the piece to me. But I don't know, you can try some different things. The thing that I was going for was something a little bit more aged looking, like maybe even matting this type of paper against another, you know, one of the patterns in there, something like that. But I just thought the metallic foil just looked way better. So I don't know, test some different looks when you're complete, and I would suggest maybe pairing, at least holding it up and possibly pairing off your pieces with something that maybe you wouldn't think would be kind of appropriate for it, because for me that would be the thing that I did there was almost like the opposite of what I was thinking originally. But I don't know, I just had a piece of gold foil and I thought, that looks pretty good with the gold on there. So okay, so let's try some quick scenes on I don't know, selection of some of this paper. This is off one sheet right here. Hello, Laura. And I don't know, these are so quick, we can get to them really fast. Okay, another brief thing. So I was trying this just on a full piece of paper the other day. I just added in that highlighting in there. But I think these pre-printed sheets in like a full size are almost a little bit too much, because they kind of mute down things that are in here. And I thought it's hard to create kind of a strong focal point in here with this type of very absorbent paper and pattern paper that, you know, is just inherent in the design of it itself. So I felt that these smaller pieces just were a lot better suited for scene stamping on this pattern paper. Okay, I don't know. I've yet to try it, but you know, a lot. So that's just my gut feeling at this point in time. But I do think that these papers right here would be great for the monster maps, if you know what I'm talking about. I did a series of these really large 11 by 17 pieces last year. And I don't have this in 11 by 17, but I think we could do some smaller sizes for anyone that tried those monster maps last year for Halloween. But this paper, to me, I think would be perfect for that. You know, any type of this weathered, aged, vintage, etc. types of papers, I think would be great for those monster maps, because they don't have like a strong focal point on them. All right, so, all right, you'll have to bear with me here on these scenes. My desk is like, I've been doing so much experimenting on these different types of surfaces lately, and my desk is absolutely cluttered, a little bit more so than normal. You know, because I know what you're saying. It's like, hey, you know, hey Kevin, whose desk isn't, you know? Okay, let's go with, let me see, let's go with this right here. And I wanted to try the covered bridge on one of these. Okay, so let me see here. This one has this really dark corner because, you know, it is kind of a vignette, but I am working around kind of an unbalanced, now that I've cut it into fours, you know, surface here. So I need to figure out how to utilize that. So this was something like this, okay, before I trimmed it up. I was like doing a puzzle here. It was probably like this right here, okay? So you get these corners like that that are nicely framing off a piece so that you know, you're supposed to, like, I don't know, run this through a printer with a, you know, printing on there, whatever, you know, whatever you want to write out to someone, a letter, or whatever you want. So, you know, take the inherent types of existing shading, whatever patterning that's on your pieces into consideration when you're thinking about what you're going to stamp out on here. I think on this one I'll go with, I think this for this covered bridge right here. I'm thinking I have that, I'll have that up in my sky, I think. All right, something like that right here. All right, these are supposed to be quick scenes. I think the thing that's going to be taking me the longest time is just kind of figuring out what I want to stamp in them. So again, I'll figure it out. Hello, Candy, Jen. Good to see you. Hope everyone had a nice week. It was my son's first full week of, you know, back in high school, and it feels like 2 weeks for me because all of our kind of schedules changed with that. with that taking place. All right, let me see something here. Let me put a little bit more ink on my pad here. I'm going a little bit thicker with my inks. On this type of paper, you can use whatever type of ink you want. It's just an uncoated text weight paper. It probably has a little bit of a resist to it, though, because it is printed over with that patterning, you know, so I would guess that the pores of the paper are a little bit more closed off than just, say, like a blank piece of, you know, printer paper, copier paper. But it is very absorbent still, and it's absorbent and I guess resistant too, so not a great combination for if you want really deep, saturated impressions with your inks, you know. Usually it's black, but whatever you're using, so. Oh, just keep that in mind. All right, let's see here. I'll take this off. I'm going to use this winter ash later, but all right, so okay, so going back to that, I'm using the Brilliance ink just because it's a thick style of pigment ink. I think a good selection or a good option would be like a VersaFine Clair on here, but I don't know, you can try your other dye-based inks. The Marvy, to me, I don't know, I haven't tried it yet, but I think it would stamp out lighter than the Brilliance. And the VersaFine Clair is just because, again, it's, you know, dyes are going to be thinner. Maybe that looks good. You know, maybe it's a more faded image and it looks better. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you're going after. But I want as bold of an image on here as I can get. And, you know, it's just not going to be, well, re-inking that, it looks reasonably dark. But to me, it looks a little bit lighter than if I were to stamp it onto, you know, this Brilliance ink onto like a piece of white matte or something like that. White coated matte, you know, so keep that in mind. Or just, I don't know, expect it, you know, so you won't be like, you know, disappointed when it stamps out a lot lighter. Like these right here were black right up here, but I didn't re-ink my pad right, you know, before it, but like these boulders down here, you can see it's like it's more like a 70% gray in some instances. This one stamped out pretty good. I would say that's like a 90% gray. It's a little bit darker right over here and a little bit lighter over here. Okay, so let's see. Let's put a fence into this. I think it'll give it kind of a nice aged look, having a little bit of a fence in here, maybe. That. Or should we go with the smaller one? Let's go with the smaller ones here. Or smaller one on one side, maybe the larger one on the other side. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. I gotta clean my desk off here. This is driving me nuts a little bit. Hello, Ginger and Jeannie. Vintage Scrap Girl, hello. Did you get any of that rain, Vintage Scrap Girl, from that storm over the weekend? I didn't know if it reached up that far. All right. So that really stamped out super dark. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a solid image. Oh, well, I guess it's also in the lighter area of the paper too. I don't know. Is that why? Okay, let's go with the larger one on this side. So this is a little bit closer to us, and that's a little bit farther away. I'm kind of pushing it a little bit here, but whatever. Spatial depth. I mean, the smaller one could be used on this side, but I don't know. There's not going to be a lot compositionally going on this scene, you know, because it's fairly small, but So let's kind of push things a little bit more. All right, so a little bit of an entryway into that road like that. And let's see, let's frame this off a little bit. I mean, if you have all these stamps ready to go, I would imagine we can, you can really crank out, some of these. I do think, these vintage pieces like this on these papers like this, you can almost use it for like a holiday card. People are thinking about holiday cards in terms of, snow or blues or something like that. But kind of the more weathered, aged-looking type of scenario. I mean, it depends on the imagery in here too, I guess. But I don't know. I think it'd be a good choice for kind of that vintage card look. And then if you want to kind of spruce it up, you can put it with some of that gold foil, and I think it would look like a good Christmas card. I can flick in some snow in here too. Maybe I'll try that. I want to try that on one of these pieces when I kind of get around to it. Maybe tonight here. But I want to see what that looks like. Kind of like a first snow of the year type of thing. All right, these are a little bit of the rocks, tiny rocks, small. Doesn't really need it, in this type of formatting, but I do think it kind of anchors things down pretty good. Now, I mean, if someone's like a beginning stamper and they're really intimidated from doing like almost anything with coloring, and a lot of, some people that are new to stamping, sometimes they haven't tried it, but sometimes I hear, I didn't want to try, stamping or something like that. And but then I saw, some scenic stamping. So that's like their first type of stamping that, they do sometimes. But, I mean, when you have that kind of established background and they're already like that, I mean, that could be a complete scene right there, And if someone looked at this, a seasoned stamper even, they might, they'd probably think that was started off on white cardstock and that they've toned in, using, whatever sponging technique with a few different, maybe distressings or something like that in there, to create that type of background or lighting, shading, I think that would look pretty good. Okay, but let's add in some extra touches in here, and I have some colors that will go with my color scheme. So a couple different browns here and black. All right. I don't think I'll have to do too much in here though. But okay, so let's think about some different choices in here. Okay, so right now the side of this covered bridge is lighter than the top. That is fine. You can do that, or that's what it is. So I have a choice. I can darken this and make it look like it's top lit. That would be one choice. I don't think I want to do that here though, because I think that it's already dark enough throughout here. I don't think making this dark would be a good idea. It would make this pop a little bit more and make it look lighter. But I don't think that would be a good choice because, again, the whole thing, like throughout this whole area right here, it's fairly dark already. Okay, but let's make this stand out a little bit more from that background because it's the subject matter. It's everything. Everything's funneling us into this scene visually, so we should get drawn to this a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'll just take some brown tones and I'm just going to lay down some really light tones like this. And what I'll do is I'll darken these trees in the background a little bit. You don't have to do like all of them, okay? I'm going to start off with this area right in back of the covered bridge like this. And some of those areas are a little bit lighter on the covered bridge. See that right there? So I don't want to just darken all of them in. I want them to retain some element of or some of the characteristic of lighting back there. So see this right here? I've toned in this right around here with like a, I don't know, like a 5 to 10% version. I mean, the darkest that I went was about like that. This can get really dark too, okay? But see that right there? I mean, that just a little bit right there makes your covered bridge stand out a little bit more. So, I mean, you can just take that as far as you want it to go. See, here I'll go a little bit darker in the shadow areas of the branches. The shadow areas would just be that darker area. See that darker area right there? I'll just make those areas just a little bit darker. So I'm just kind of reiterating the inherent lighting of the design. Here's these areas underneath the bridge, like that, where the water's flowing through. I'll just darken those a little bit too. And I'm making the shadows richer. Right now it's just kind of black in there. And I'm making those a little bit richer. The area right underneath this, I don't know if it's called an eave when it's on a bridge, but I'm just going to make that a little bit darker, like right underneath those, like this. So it just makes the bridge a little bit more developed like that. You want a little bit of variation from this bridge from front to back. Let's do that. Let's add in a little bit of color like this. I do already have this on the design. I have it a little bit darker right here in the design so that it can differentiate this side plane from the front plane right here, this entryway. So I've darkened this. If I had it all the same lighting right here in the design, it would look like, you know, this is the same wall as this area right here. It wouldn't differentiate. So I'm doing a little bit of that right there. So a little bit of change from the rooftop right here. This roof is all the same. So I'm just adding in a little bit of tone up there in one area. So now it's a little bit lighter here and a little bit darker over there. You can have it darker here and lighter back there, you know, something, whatever you want. But just those little subtle variations. I mean, you know, it takes like, I don't know, like a few seconds to do. And, you know, it just makes it a little bit more three-dimensional like that. These areas right down in here, there's these little rocks. I'm just adding some little bit of shadows to some of them. I'm not really making any of this up here, you know, either. You could, but I'm talking about the shadows. I'm just kind of darkening in some of these shadows where they already exist. See this area right around here, that was a little bit darker. See this area right back in here, that's darker. So you're just kind of filling in that with a little bit more of like a 5% version of this pen. Okay, this fence right here, I'll show you how to do like fence shadows, okay? So you just kind of connect these up like this, okay? And have it a little bit darker right around at the post, okay? Like this. And then now you have that little connective shadow like that. So what you've done is you've given kind of mass and opacity to this form right here. So there's a subtle shadow like that. Doesn't it seem like it's sitting in the scene a little bit more? All right. And just with a, you know, a faint version of this too. There's this tree right back in here. It's kind of hard to tell because we have this going in here now too, but I'll just kind of anchor that down a little bit more. This. Let's go in with a little bit of black, okay? This is such a strong black impression with this fence right here. So I'm going to add a little bit of shading right around this. So it's like a, I don't know, 15% value of black like this. I'm just adding a little bit more around at the base of the posts like that. So you can see that where it fades out from that initial kind of mark right there. So see that right there? So it's a little bit of a varied shadow. It's a soft shadow. Now, if we wanted to create something really dramatic, we have a really strong moon here, a sun, and it's really glaring down there. We could do a really strong, you know, shadows coming out from that. But this here looks like, you know what I mean? There's no light source in here or something like that. So, you know, so soft shadows. All right, so let's see. I think that's it. I don't know. I really feel like I should be adding more. You know, that's the problem with this thing. It's like, I don't know. We're like done, you know, really fast. It doesn't feel right to me, but it looks right though. No, just got overcast and windy. Yeah, okay. Where are you getting all of your gloss paper? I have a few Okay, so Bonnie, I get mine from Kelly Paper. You can get it from. I haven't needed to buy any either because I have like a ream of it, or like several reams. Okay, I'm going to add in with this beige paint pen. I guess you might be able to use like a light colored, like white or beige colored pencil or something of that sort. But this is where I'm going to add in my thematic light. And this pen right here is like the same color as like this area right in here, okay? But I don't know if it's still available, Bonnie, but I have these links on the information section in the accessories materials links, you know, on the Stampscapes website. Like a lot of the stuff that I use, if I start using a lot, I'll put a link to it in that either in the materials FAQ or the off-site. I think I called it the off-site accessories page or something like that, but it's in the information section. Keep in mind, those things are changing like all the time in terms of what inventory places have, availability. You know, the paper industry's been really nuts over the past, I don't know, maybe about, I don't even know if it's been 2 years, but it was when all those sourcing problems were kind of popping up. Pulp, you know, just raw material shortages. So I might have a link to something, and it's like, you know, that's a dead link right now. Or, I don't know, it might be temporarily, you know, out of stock. Things like the everyday digital white coated silk was out of stock in one or two places. That was the semi-gloss paper. The semi-gloss papers are really pretty good way to go. And those ones can be found on, you know, like Amazon. I don't know if the glossy chrome coat's available on Amazon. It is sometimes, and it isn't at other times, I think. All right, so adding in that little shimmer around in this piece, it's kind of waking it up a little bit, I think. Hello, Cynthia. Happy Friday to you too. All right. Okay, so I added this everywhere where you see that kind of little glimmery, shimmery area on here is the pen, okay? Now, I went over this with white just to check it out, you know what I mean? But I think I might have liked it better with just the tan color, but I don't know. I was playing around with this right here, and I added in some white over the top of this kind of more muted beige color. Okay, so on here, you know how I added a little bit of shadow underneath some of these rocks? I'm just going in here and adding in some lighter toned rocks, or giving the rocks on the road some of the little larger, I don't know, whatever, pebbles, a little bit of a highlight right in here. It gives us a little bit of shimmer too. I think I want to try something on this too, I think. All right, so let's see this fence right here. I'm just going to bring it out a little bit by adding a little bit of highlighting. The fence design is illuminated, okay, on the tops of these rails, or whatever you call them, fences, okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of reiterating, but see how much more three-dimensional that looks? I mean, I don't know if I can add on highlights around this, because if I add a highlight right here, it's already, you know, light in the background, so you probably won't be able to see it too much. Well, let's give it a try. On this one, I put it right on the top of that fence. This one, I'm kind of adding it like right in the middle, or maybe not in the middle, but towards the top of the, because I don't know if you can see that right there. It looks a little bit more 3D, I think. And this looks like a kind of dark to me, so I'm going to add a little like stars in here as well. All right, let's do this right here too. I'll add a little bit of a this little highlighting on top of that roof. See these little, I don't know what you call them, like slats or something like that. They're going in that direction, so I'm doing this little check mark down that way. I'm not doing this full line like that. I'm doing like this type of thing. You put your pen down like this and you just do a little mark like this, okay? I can extend it out. You just kind of keep it in the same direction like that. So you can get this kind of tapered application where it's a little bit thicker up top and then it tapers off down there, okay? And you just do it in the direction of whatever it is. If you're doing it if I was doing it on the side here, I'd go vertical like that, because that's the way those wood pieces are, okay? And this one right here, just to see that little lighting right there on the top of that roof. So I'm going to bring that out a little bit more like that. Yeah, something like that. See how it stands out a little bit more? It's just one of those little subtle things that, you know, you can do. It's a small difference. It's a really dinky thing to do. But, you know, if you're the one kind of putting it there, it makes for a pretty big difference, because that's the type of thing that you're looking for. See these fences in here now? Now I'm looking at this a little bit closer. On the tops of these little fence posts like this. There, that fence stands out a little bit more. Maybe it's almost too illuminated, so let me put a little bit more lighting around it, saying that, you know, there's more light hitting that area than before. All right, so there we go. A little kind of North Star up there would look kind of cool. I keep adding on to this thing, you know, but I don't know. Like I said, the whole point of this is, you know, just to do like a real quick scene. Like I said, I think it looked pretty good, just, you know, just stamping on there. So, yeah, okay, so here's what this type of thing looks like with a few little highlights. And see, this one doesn't have any, because I didn't try the paint pen on this one. Let's bring in a little bit of paint pen into this one. Let's just do it kind of minimally. Okay, so this was this will look like this when I get it formatted, you know, with a little bit of a kind of a beige, you know, paper border like that. But, you know, there you go. I think that's a pretty elegant looking piece. And what did we do? We did very minimal applications of colored pencil, right? And again, we didn't have to do too much because the color's already laid down in this paper already, over everything, under everything. But I think this looks pretty good with this right here. I think you can do something else too. I mean, you might be able to come up with a piece of paper and, where they do those kind of, I don't know, back when they were doing like that soot stamping type of thing, like literally stamping into soot and doing a reverse impression, a lot of people kind of burnt their edges. Not the foil, but, a piece of white cardstock or I don't know, colored cardstock maybe, and they kind of burnt it, giving it that kind of real aged look. And I think that would look pretty cool like that too. Even if I did that though, I think I would put this little bit of border around there just to separate it from that. And this border right here is the same kind of color as this pen right here. All right, let's see what this looks like. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. This little, these posts right out front, I thought could have been brought out a little bit more, like that. When I was looking at it, see those posts like that? Look at how it kind of comes out from the background a little bit more. Hello, Maureen. Hello, Bugs. Good to see you. Let's put a little bit of this on the rooftop. Okay, so kind of just adding that in a little bit like that. I'm curious here. Let me see something. I don't know if this beige colored pencil is going to stand out in here, but because this isn't really dark, but okay, so the colored pencils, they've never been really opaque. So adding this down here, that color is just showing right through it, so it's not really doing anything. I was wondering if I can lighten some of this up, maybe with a white colored pencil. I usually don't go with that, but it's not going to look white, right? It'll look a little bit more see-through. Let me see. This is kind of a hard, this one's not a Prismacolor, so it doesn't really apply too easily. Actually, that is a little bit lighter. Oh, this is a chalk pencil. There's a little bit of chalk there, but I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of lighter area right there. So a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more three-dimensional on that cabin. Let's put a little bit more under this eave here. Oh, let's see. Let's put some of this down here in this grassy area too. Okay. A little bit on top of some of these trees. And I want to try something on here. I'm going to see if I can spruce this up just a touch with some really kind of subtle little elements in here. Okay, so this area right in here, it's darker, right? I mean, that's the way it was. This darker area on the paper, I think, kind of extended out right around there anyway. So I'm going to put in these little... It doesn't look like night to me here, but it could be, I don't know, whatever, dusk or twilight. And see these little sparkly little bits like that? I'm going to make those into like little fireflies. Maybe it's not a 10-minute card, but I don't know. These fireflies aren't going to take long. It's like you're taking it from, I don't know, 10 minutes to 12 minutes, or I don't know, 15 minutes to 17. Which, and if it looks good, you know, I think it's worth it in terms of a couple more minutes. All right, so white pigment ink. And I'm just going to do it very, very lightly here. Because it's the only kind of white in here. But it's going to make it, I'll make it kind of see-through because it's going to be just a really light application of it. Something like that. All right, now I want to do this on all of them. I think that added to it. All right, let me put another one right here. I'm going to put a couple larger ones right over here. Okay, so larger ones and current, you know, larger dots right in here. I'll let that dry just a touch. It should dry really fast, though. Which side of this? Oh, this side has the ink on it. All right, so here's these little, you know, fireflies sitting here on the branches, or they're flying. I don't know whether they're. And then see, there's some back right in here, so it's a little bit. It's kind of a subtle element. I mean, this is looking at it like at, you know, just arm's distance right there. But I see that little traveling kind of, you know, to me that added a little bit of movement into that otherwise, you know, an okay area. But I think adding those little types of things in there gives us a reason to look at that area of the card. Otherwise, you know, I think the focal point is here. You look at the birds and, you know, people read, you know, any type of wording that's on a scene, but you don't think about like areas like this. This is just kind of here to kind of lead us into, you know, the whatever the focal point, or, you know, the area of focus. But these types of little elements in the least interesting areas, again, it just gives people some reason to look in that area now, you know, when they're enjoying the card. It's one of those secondary things, I think. All right, that looked pretty good, though. See this whole area right in here? You know, not very much is happening in there, so let's do that in here. I don't know. I can't really add it over here because, well, let's see. Maybe underneath this tree where it's a little bit more shaded underneath there. See, I can't really add one around like in here because if I add that little glowing light around it, this area in here is already really super light. So you have to add it into an area where it's a little bit darker so that you can see that kind of, you know, the white kind of glow in there. You maybe do something interesting too, you know, if you, since this is all monochromatic, you know, and the, you know, those fireflies are a little bit kind of greenish glow. Maybe the only thing you have in here that's kind of greenish, you know, in tinge would be the fireflies. That might be kind of an interesting little thing. It would kind of become about those fireflies, though, if you did that, because they would stand out a lot more. But I don't know, you know, why not? You know, why not make it about, you know, the smallest of elements? It's kind of, you know, it's one kind of way to go. See this right here? It's kind of bringing that area to life a little bit. I'm kind of adding a little bit more around one of them just to make one of them a little bit brighter than the others. You know, just for variation. All right, so I don't know. Can you see the difference now between those little, you know, areas, whatever, sans, fireflies, or with them? You know, just like two little things, and you know, I don't know, like maybe five things, but there's like two main ones right here. Okay, you can do the same thing for up in your stars. A lot of times they do that for stars just to create a little visual interest in there. Okay, so that's that makes for a quick scene. So trying to, like I said, figuring out what to do with something like this. If we do something like with this one, that area right up there is kind of interesting. It's something that you kind of have to work around to in ways because it is so strong. If you just logged on, this is just a piece of an 8.5 by 11. Here's the other piece right here. The other one is like down here, but these pre-printed vintage types of papers, a lot of times, not on all of them, but some of them have this kind of stronger perimeter like that. So if you're breaking it down and using it for a scene like this, then a lot of times you're kind of working around kind of an imbalanced or an unbalanced, inherent format here. So you have to do something with this, right? Even if you put it this way, it's up in the corner. I don't think I would. I guess you can have it down in the lower corner. It looks kind of weird to me down there. I don't know. I usually have it up there in the top area, but let's try something with that here. Let's see. I'm going to use this for another scene here too. I want to use this. I don't know, whatever, this snowflake stationery here. So let's try this one right on here and see what it looks like. Talk about some really minimal compositional stamping here. All right, so if you just logged on, I'm using the Brilliance ink just to give myself a little bit of a thicker impression here on this uncoated, matte paper. The paper itself, everything stamps on there really well, albeit a little bit lighter than coated cardstocks like your semi-glosses and even a matte cardstock. If it has the coated clay surface over the top of it, you're going to get a stronger impression. Now this one right here, because it's more of an airy looking design with little dots, a lot of it, that looks like a, well, I don't know. I guess that black's not too bad. I was going to say it's more like an 80% gray, but maybe it's like a 90 something percent gray in here in terms of darkness. But like I said, it's just a bunch of little dots. So, but in the solids, I'm looking at those little solids down there, and they're pretty strong, so not too bad. All right, so I'm working around this thing, and I got this large winter ash tree. See the slope right here in the snow that goes down like that? I mean, you could put that tree right on the top there too, but I'm gonna mask off this slope right here so that it looks like this tree is coming up from behind that slope. And you can do that, anytime you're doing snow, you can kind of angle off your things and have like a evergreen or something like that in the snow. So you don't always have to stamp out the full things, okay? I mean, this doesn't have to represent snow either. It could just be, dirt or something like that. All right, so see, this is now in that. I don't know. When I masked it off now, it definitely looks like snow, But if I colored this in, greens or something like that on a white piece of paper then, and put like little paint pen dots up there, then, then we're looking at spring. All right. Let's do some, I'm trying to come up with my composition here on the fly. Let's do this. Let's do this little deer right next to it. That one looks a little bit big to me. Let's go with... All right, I don't want to go around looking for too many stamps here. Let's do... It's all of my unmounted stamps are all over the place. That might be kind of interesting too. Huh. I'm looking for that really small elk that's somewhere around here because I haven't put away any of the latest release stamps. Let's just go with this one that kind of stands out to me. I wanted to go for something. If I'm stamping it over here, I want it to be pointing this way. Okay. Usually if I have things on the perimeter, if they're animals or people or something like that, I usually want them going into the scene unless it's a sequential piece that this is like scene number 1 and then there's the scene number 2 and scene number 3, then I might have them all kind of facing one direction, and then the last piece they might be centered or looking back that way. Those are little kind of sequential types of things, little tricks you can do. All right, but see this right here? They're kind of playing against one another now. And this is a little slope right here. One little animal like that can balance off or a person can really create balance within a scene. All right, let's just stamp everything out right now. Reads like that. Okay. See my little kind of entry points right here. This one having the fences right here. A lot of times I did the fences with, some grass or something like that. There wasn't room for it on this one. This one, there's things on the lower left and right hand corner. Here it is again, lower left and right hand corner with fireflies. And this one right here, it's much more spread out, but here's trees kind of flanking. I don't have it like right immediately in the foreground right that, but, and again, here's this little opening between the objects for the viewer to enter the scene. So it's whoever's looking at your card or the recipient of them. You're not blocking them out from going in there. Yeah, when you need a card fast, I mean, you need to do a lot of this stuff on here, but yeah, like I said, it certainly is fun. Okay, so if this represents snow in here, what you do is you can color the water, all right? And if this represents grass or something like that, if it, what I mean, if it wasn't, on this type of paper too, maybe, I guess you could do green grass on here still, but, you're going to color the grass. But if this is snow, then you're going to color this area down here to make this stand out, but like much whiter looking. Okay. I'm going to make it, let's see what this looks like with this water area kind of darkened in. Okay. So again, I'm just going with a really light touch right here. It's like a 5% version. I don't know, maybe 2% version of this dark brown right here. Okay, but you can use it as a very light brown just by using, different pressures right here. Okay, so we'll make this stand out, and I'll show you how we do a shadow for that tree too. It'd be fun on this type of paper too. If you have a lot of sky up here, you use your little crystals or something like that. For, just, I don't know, put a little bit of bling into the scene, into like an aged looking, spirited piece, okay? But like I was mentioning in, I don't know, wherever I posted, I felt that the gold perimeter on here with like a modern little twist on something like a, sepia print or something like that, kind of modernized it and contrasted against this so this looks even maybe more aged looking. I don't know. By having something not so aged and, contemporary right next to it. Okay, so going into and adding these little shadows around on these objects that are within that snowy area like that. Okay, so see this right here? Doing this in the water like this, or the ice, whatever, if it's frozen over, I don't know. Like that. We have this little separation of this line right down here between the slope and the back slope, so I'll add a little bit of shadow back in here. This area is inherently darker, right? So what you do is you just reiterate areas that are already darker, including those shadows or these darker rocks right in here. Let's try a different tone of brown. I'm using that so minimally, I don't know if it will really make a difference. I'm talking about using 2 different tones of brown. It makes a difference just, using one of them for sure. Okay. And see this tree right here? So whatever direction you have your lighting coming from, I guess this is the light coming from back here, okay? And it looks like right around here. So the shadow that would be, cast by, I mean, there's a really like faint diffused lighting, so it's not going to be anything really like harsh, like I'm gonna make this harsh line coming down here, like a really deep shadow or something like that. So I think it's just coming from this like vicinity, and like I said, it's very diffused. So the direction of the shadow would be coming like this way. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of shadow like that. And I want to diffuse it a little bit too. So I'm going a little bit darker right around the trunk like this. And again, it's not, I'm not going to make it too dark because, there's not a lot of lighting in here, to begin with. So this is kind of going down this slope right here. So I don't know what angle to put it on, really, but this angle right here, this is a slope that goes down like this, right? And then this area is flat because it's like water. So you change the angle of it. I don't know whether to go that way or maybe, see it's going down the slope like that a little bit. And maybe I'll come out like this way. Okay, so it's like, that's the shadow like that. But I'm gonna have it fade out from right here to here, I think. A little bit more, so. Something like that. Okay. And now let's go with a little bit of black right next to the tree right down here, and that'll kind of plant it into the snow a little bit more. I'll add a little bit of black in here too. All right, so something like that. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't taper it off too much. I'll have a little bit more of it going out there. And that horse, I'll give it a little bit of shadow. That horse's barn is like right here. He's not out in the middle of winter or something like that. Okay, so, or he is, but I don't know. He likes to go stretch his legs. It was something like that. And let's see, I wanted to see what some like snowfall would look like in here. Let me go back to this white, what is this called? Carb Othello. Actually, I don't know what this is. I thought it was a charcoal pencil, but it's a little bit hard. Oh, there we go. I kind of had to get the right angle for it. I don't know, it wasn't applying in here. Okay, this white is going to look really kind of weird until I do what I'm going to do in a bit here. All right, so you see that little white in here? Okay. All right, let's see what this is going to be looking like so far since I have this. Then like that. I think it'll look pretty cool. All right, let's. Now this area is really heavy right here. Okay. So let's do this right here. Let's go ahead and add a North Star up into that area. We want to make that area up in here look a little bit more purposeful. Okay. So if we have something that's a bit of a focal point in here as well, I think it'll look a little bit, like it makes sense. Like, it was like something that we intended to add in here, except in this case, it was just inherently in that paper. So let's add kind of like a North Star type of thing, or I don't know, what 8-pointed star. So I add a little dot like that. And then I do that thing where I'm kind of, on here, I just did a little tapered kind of mark like that. And then I did it in here, with these little lines coming down this way. Okay, so again, if you just joined us here, you can do these little marks. Yeah, I would practice it a little bit. It's kind of what's happening here. See this, where you get this thing and you get these transition zones. It's not just going dark and then stopping right here with this solid. See how it's got these mid-tones. It gets lighter and lighter and lighter down here. Well, we're doing that with lighting too. You have something, except that you're going from lighting and you're making something really light, and then you're making something darker as it moves away from that, as opposed to this uniform line like that, okay? So I'll show you how this goes with a star. You want these little arms to kind of fade out, okay? And I'll show you something if you don't get it, with your first try or something like that. You can always just tint in the edges of your lines if it looks too linear and, distinct like that, uniform. Just tint them in with some ink afterwards, because this ink can be colored with whatever ink you want. Or even like a colored pencil. Okay, so I go like that. And this is an elongated piece, so I have the vertical arms of the star a little bit longer usually. And I go with the side ones. That's a little bit too short. And then I go for the smaller ones, like that. So we go for something like that. All right, now that like totally stands out and looks kind of weird, because that same type of element is in here with a real strong white. So we're going to add in some extra white elements like this, and I'm going to splatter paint it with the Dr. Martens after this. So all right, so here's some of the snowy kind of rocks in here with some lighter highlighting on top of it. So this tree right here in the whatever, in those little notches, put a little bit of a white pigment ink. And there's like hundreds of them in here, but I don't do it on all of them. I just kind of do them on the larger, where the larger branches are. All right, see that tree right there? You have a little bit of snow buildup, or I don't know, it could just be, highlighting in there. That, okay. And let's take a look and see what this looks like with some snowfall in here. Let's see, I need a little bit more of this. If you had like if we had like a word stamp that said like peace or something like that, but it was vertical, that would have been kind of interesting in there too. You know, but I don't have that, so. Okay, let's see. Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. It looks like I'm in need for some of this pretty soon. One bottle of it lasted me like a really long time. And then I don't know, I started using it like a lot in like different scenes. Stars, snowfall, the base of waterfalls, you know, Seaside Cove and the splashing rocks. I just started using it everywhere. Oh, and then I did an experiment with the glitter paper and using this Dr. Martin's as a base, you know, just to paint in like a, I don't know, like right around the snow area or something like that over kind of a darker paper. And that worked really well because you can color this Dr. Martin's paint with your different types of media pretty easy, because it's just like a chalky style of, you know, white watercolor paint. So it really accepts media. All right, so we'll splatter paint this whole thing. It's not going to show up too much in these lighter areas, but maybe we can get a little bit of texturing down there. This is one of those instances when I wish I can get a little bit more variation. Okay, I got a little bit. Like sometimes I don't know. I don't really know if I should add in more water to get like a thicker drop sometimes. Sometimes thinner, you know, gives me a more varied kind of splattering in here. And sometimes it seems like it's, you know, thicker does that. I don't know. I never know what to do with that after all these years. So, okay, so that being said, what I'll do is I'll just add in some larger snowfall, you know, with your acrylic pen, just for a little bit of that variation. See how those really stand out like that? All right, I think that looks, you know, I don't know, pretty interesting for a, I don't know, just the inherent aged background like that. That's how I'll format it right there. Oh, let me see something here. Okay, so since we added that gold, into the scenario, I'm going to add in some of these gold stars up here with a metallic acrylic paint pen. You're not going to be able to see this, but someone might be able to see it up close. But let's see if you can see it at all. Okay, well, you can see there's little gold against that. Gold is not a light color, okay? It's only light if it's reflecting that light, but let's see if you... I thought I can kind of see, I can see it here in person. Oh, you know what it did? This paint pen, okay, I know what it did. It was shiny when I applied it here, but then the paper absorbed it. So let me see. So I'm going over some of those same little golden dots here again. Let's see if I can build it up a little bit. Here, I'll add in more just with that in mind. I don't know if you can see that right there, but oh, okay. I don't think you can see it there. I can see it here. It doesn't stand out too much in there, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe a different pen or something like that. But anyways, we have our little bit of highlighting down here again, and yeah. Okay, so if I had a little bit of those gold splashes in there, it would be kind of cool. You can see it up close here, but I don't think it didn't really do enough to make a difference, you know, where it's really worth applying. It takes like 10 seconds to do, so it's not any big deal, but something like that could have been cool. Or I have these little, you know what I have? I have these gold crystals. I don't know if they're considered a crystal if they're gold, but they're the same thing as those little crystal rhinestones, the clear ones. But I think I have gold too, somewhere. But I would put, you know, a couple of those little touches up there. If you can, or you can put them down here in the water, like there's a little bit of glistening gold in there, just to really kind of bring that type of reflected element into a very small area, in different areas like that. All right, so anyway, that's 2 down right here. We just stamped out this one right here. The fireflies are pretty fun to do. Does anyone have any kind of these pattern papers or anything like that you've utilized before? I'm just curious. I used some of this vintage paper. I think when I got that pack of paper, I used it once, and I think it was on a farm scene or something like that. Just because I thought the theme of that would look really good, and I thought it looked pretty good. But I don't know. I don't remember what what other techniques that I used on there were. I don't know if I got around to it again though. Okay, so here's a piece of that really, I don't know, whatever, very kind of office staples, you know, type of cheap stationery pack. This is what it is right here. I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I've had this forever, but this is 2003 here on here. And I think I've had this paper for a long time thinking, I should try stamping on there. I don't know if that's when I bought it, you know, but that's the copyright on here. I don't know. I would think that someone would come up with a different version of it, or would have come up with a different version of it in the meantime. Okay, so on this one right here, I think I'm going to change my ink on here. This is a really subtle blue on here, and I think that stamping the imagery this is so light right here and subtle. I think if I stamped on here in black, I think it would be a little bit too much. Oh yeah, Ginger, yeah, the scrapbook papers, of which a gazillion different you know, options, huh? I was thinking about how there's not that many stores left, you know, like scrapbooking stores, like independent ownership, but just how many papers were coming out for a while in the scrapbooking world. And how much of that real estate in those stores was devoted to paper. That was one of those really hard things for scrapbook stores to kind of keep up with, you know, because it seemed like in stamping, I didn't see too many trends. There were lines that got popular and then kind of faded out a little bit at times. Or you'd see some trends like At one point in time, it was like Asian themed things were, were pretty popular, or maybe formats, dominoes, maybe not inches, but ATCs and doing pins, that type of thing. But what I'm getting at is in the scrapping world, it seemed like papers, you get this certain type of looking paper, and in a few months, it was kind of like, it was like old stuff. But I remember thinking, man, how are these stores going to keep up with that? If things are kind of on a 7-month cycle or something like that. Okay, so this is Prussian blue, so it is a pretty dark blue. Anyway, it looks really weird when I'm putting it on here. It looks really like a reddish violet blue for some reason, which it really isn't. But when I, colored this, it really looks that way for some reason. Okay, let me see. Do I go higher or lower? Let's go lower. I might leave room for like a quote stamp. They're still doing that. Oh, okay. I didn't even know if the 12 by 12, is that still the the standard format? How many? Okay, so how many papers do people have? Like in the 12 by 12s, where you've bought like single sheets, do you think? That you bought and haven't used before. Okay, so that's really stamped out light like that. That's like a almost like a medium tone blue. This is, as far as I know, this is one of the darkest blues that has been out there in the stamping world. That is Prussian blue. Yeah, I was looking to make sure that's Prussian blue. I thought it stamped out so light. I thought, man, was that the number 3 blue? I have a lot of papers too. Well, you can see I'm using this one from 2003. I thought it was time to like empty the fridge, so to speak. After you've got a bunch of leftovers that are kind of piling up in the fridge. And so you got to eat it before it goes bad. Well, our stuff's not going to go bad, but I don't know. I think it's good to use it. So I've been using things like, I'm dipping into this. Now, this isn't like super old, but I've had it sitting around for like I don't know, maybe a couple of years at this point in time. But some of that stamp board pieces, I did that 5 by 7. I probably had that thing sitting around for a really long time. And that was pretty recent, that stamp board one. Was that in the live stream? I did that in the live stream, right? That was pretty old. And then I was using something else too. I don't know. I guess all of it's pretty, it's been like the theme. Trying new stuff with old stuff too. Like my colored pencils. All right. Yeah. So how many, does a lot of people, a lot of you have those 12 by 12, what do you call those things, where it's like a tablet of it, where you tear out those sheets? I think my wife was a scrapbooker, and she does have a lot of like individual sheets, but it seemed like to me when I was helping her kind of organize all of that, it seemed like it somewhere along the line it turned into more of those little tablet full of paper, those thematic tablets, or I don't know, what do you call those, paper blocks, I don't know, whatever you call it. But she has a ton of that. And then I was, going out to these different scrapbook stores too, and sometimes I'd start, I don't know. I didn't pick up too many of those because I wasn't using that type of paper a lot. I was using mostly glossy cardstock at the time. But some of those ones I did buy like a grayscale pack of paper. Not the 12 by 12. I think let me see. I just saw them. All my papers are like behind me on my shelves here, and I organized them not too long ago. But I had a heck of a time trying to find this snowflake one because I had it categorized incorrectly. I had it with my metallics for some reason. But anyways, I need to try out more of these types of papers, especially when I'm starting to realize that a lot of them are very, very applicable to where I wouldn't have maybe thought that before. Like with these foils, and the vinyl, printable holographics. I never would have thought about that thing, type of thing. Not too much, time ago. This type of paper, I mean, I'm using it in a different way for the first time over this last couple days, and I really like the look, and they're really fun to do. This one to me was looking a little bit, I don't know. It wasn't boring, but adding those little types of things like that in there, those little fireflies, I really love that. So it's like I don't know, it's like I'm getting kind of every time I try one of these types of things like that, and if I like what I see, I kind of start getting like obsessed with trying different things out. I'll be sitting around doing something, eating or whatever, watching TV, and it's like, oh, I want to test out that snowflake paper with whatever, because a lot of this stuff doesn't occur to me to try it out because I haven't done it before. So it's like I got to get the gears in motion in my head, maybe, or something like that. I don't know, maybe my subconscious is working on it or something like that. I'm not a fast learner. Okay, let me see. 12 by 12 that I haven't used yet. That's a sore subject. We're having we're having a stamping party at Jen's place. We're going to use her paper. See what we can come up with. Okay, so I started using I hadn't been stamping on metallic papers like at all. All right, until about, I don't know, maybe it's been 2.5 years at this point in time, or I don't know, it's 3. The time flies, but it's relatively short span of time. But it was one of those things where I was thinking, I just bought paper and I didn't have it organized in any way, but I started looking through it. It's like, man, I'm collecting a ton of. By the way, there's the two large winter ashes, the smaller one right there. I thought, man, I've been collecting a lot of those metallics, and it was especially the iridescent style ones. I mentioned this before in other videos, but I was using a lot of or buying a lot of those types of papers, and I thought, I've been mostly using them as like a little, frame around my scenes on glossy cardstock or whatever, iridescent blue around, winter blue scene or something of that sort. And I thought, I'm never going to use that paper up, because I bought it in like packs of like 25 a lot of times when I was traveling, going to different stamp stores, or I'm near a paper store. You know what I mean? I didn't really look out for paper stores to go to, like all of you probably did. But if I got into a paper store, man, it was like, you know, I don't know, kid in a candy store in terms of at least the things that I wanted. And I'd always be walking out with, I guess, the iridescent ones. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, but yeah, that's why. Yeah, it was time to utilize them. Yeah, and to experiment. You know what I mean? Those 12 by 12 ones, though. I don't know how comfortable I'd feel if I was paying a lot for those ones. You know what I mean? I know a lot of those types of papers were not, they were not cheap. So, but if you buy like a pack of like 25 8.5 by 11s, you know what I mean, and you're cutting them down quarter size, I don't mind kind of experimenting around with that type of thing and trying things out. So, and then if you use it like a 12 by 12 that you bought one of, then it's gone. So, and I like having the paper too. A lot of it's not available anymore. So I totally get, why. A lot of people just, you know what I mean? You still have, the paper that you haven't tried out. You know what I mean? It's a collector's item. All right, so here's my little guy, my little snow guy. Should I stamp him out in blue or should I stamp him out in black? So he stands out more. If I stamp him out in black, then I need something else in black, I think, to just frame off the scene a little bit more. But if I don't do it in black, I don't know, we won't have that full range of contrasts, so I'm not sure. Let me see, what do people say here? You have a stack of 12 by 12 pads. Oh, that's 48 inches high. That's pretty high. Yeah. My wife got those kind of paper organizers, that's, I don't know, it's about that high, but it's in like slots. But instead of like individual papers, it's those pads, like in one whole one. And then there's she got another like a cupboard full of the I don't know, they might be pads. I can't I now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if they're all individual sheets. I guess they can't be. That would be like way too many, right? No. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put this little guy's feet right here. I'm going to do it in black, but I'm going to wipe off some of his feet. I don't think this is going to stamp out too black anyway. Okay, so I've wiped off like the feet right here on this little child and sled right here, just so that he's in the snow. I'm not going to put him like knee deep or anything like that, but yeah. You know what I mean? At least a few inches or something like that. All right, so we have him like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's not so much darker. That stamped out like a 85% gray, I would say. The stores would have huge paper sales. Okay, 50 cents to $1. That's not too bad. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I ever bought any of those 12 by 12s. I don't think I ever bought a 12 by 12 piece of paper. I brought, the pad, though. Or did I? What? I don't even know where that is. I was looking all over for the papers today. I was like, oh, I have that pad. Okay, let's see here. If you just logged on to this video for the first time, this is not a preset thing, and I apologize about just kind of like fumbling around here. It's because I'm coming up with these compositions on the fly here. As far as the compositions go, I know what I want to try here in terms of some different techniques on here though. All right, winter brush. Let's frame off this scene a little bit more. There's a little bit of monotony going on right here. Okay, I mean I think it looks okay, but I'm just going to add in a little bit of additional framing, like I said, down here and those other scenes that I just did. I showed you what I do on the left and right bottom corners like that. It just kind of frames things off. Okay, so I didn't want to go with the reeds, so I went with this leafless little, like bush here. All right, so there's a fly in my crafting room. All right, I'm not gonna let that bug me unless it lands on me. Okay, let's see. This area right here is like perfect for a quote. Okay, this is the one I was thinking about with this little sledder. It's the one that it's the quote that I've been using with my baby sea turtles a lot. But I thought this little child here with the sled. This one's the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I thought that would be kind of funny in a way. Okay, so I'm going to make a little bit of a connection between this child and the quote by stamping this in black. Okay, so it's like the two kind of visual components of the scene. I mean, the whole thing's visual, but in terms of like kind of more focal point types of things within here. All right, so let's see here. All right, have that. All right. Thematic coloring. We have these colors that are already on this paper. Where's my other piece of this? These are the colors, the general colors, not black, but these are the general colors of this area around here, and I'm going to utilize them down here in the terrain. You almost can't really even see those snowflakes anymore. I mean, if people are looking close, they'll be able to tell they're in there, but this area down here, you really can't tell, any of that pattern. It'd be right here, okay? Not that it would be bad if you could, but anyways, okay, so what this looks like right here to me is it looks like just this general glow of lighting right in here, and it just got that little bit of a vignette around the edge, provided by this little subtle perimeter patterning. So I'm going to follow suit with some additional shadow forms right in here using the blue pencils, okay? And again, I think this looks pretty good as is. Like, if people didn't want to do anything with it, I wouldn't think it. When I look at this, if someone posted this, on Facebook or whatever, I wouldn't look at this and say, oh, it needs some shadow work in here, or anything like that. To me, every piece looks done. Now, if someone says, all right, Kevin, it doesn't look done to me, and I need some suggestions or something like that, then I'll make some suggestions of where they can, possibly, have it go, so, additional things that they, might want to do. So I usually ask them, what do you think is kind of missing to you? And they'll usually just tell me kind of, they might not know what to do, but a lot of times people kind of get the feeling of, something there, or sometimes when they explain it to me, when I ask them like specific questions, they kind of figure it out then. This is like, I don't know, whatever it is, like art psychology, huh? But see this like here. See, I'm just kind of reiterating the forms in here. So this area was darker down here, so I'm just kind of filling that in like we did on that other piece, um, with some darker kind of shadows like right around in here. Okay, so I just did that with this. Now see, I think all these forms look a little bit more rounded to me, just with a little bit of shading on them. You can see these darker rocks down in here, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm just going into this lighter area and putting at the very base of the rock just a little bit of tone like this. So shadows usually are some sort of darker version of the object of lighting that's being cast. Okay, so if this was like a brilliant sunset tones, going in the background, the shadow might be reds and oranges or something of that sort, okay, on snow. In this case, we have this blue kind of lighting in here, all right? So the shadows would be blue here, so but I'll match this tree though, so. Okay, so I've told people how kind of my approach to shadows before. So let's just choose kind of a light source in here. Okay, so there's just a general kind of diffused lighting in here, okay? Actually, I was going to put one over here. Let's say that the lighting, let's just choose a point right in here because that'll allow us to kind of create more interesting shadows in here, okay? So I'll just we'll make the light source right at the end of this branch right here, okay? So right here at the base of this tree, right this, okay? This is the general direction of the shadow, but this isn't like a flat concrete here or anything like that. It's a slope, right? So the general kind of shadow direction might be something like this. So it's just this little sloping area like this. If this tree was on just like a flat surface, then it would just be, it would be more of a direct shadow like that, okay? So I'm going to create a little arc like that. And then, see this tree right here, right over here, and it goes down to about right here, the base of the trunk. Okay, so see, this is the general shadow direction right here, okay? So, but it is going down a slope again, like this. I mean, I don't know what slope it is. I'm just I'll make it up right here. So I'll make up that little arc like that. But see, this is the general direction. If you alter it off a little bit, that's going to be fine because this is not a flat terrain. It's like this little kid's walking up a little snowy slope right here. So okay, so you go like that. Those are the general directions. We have another tree right here, and here's that top of that branch. So base of the tree, and we'll go like this right here. Now this is a more distant one, so I'm going to make the shadow a little bit lighter like that. Okay, so do you see these shadows being cast right here? Now they're just real light. I'll show you. I'll make them a little bit more prominent here. So I'm making the area right next to the tree a little bit darker because, like your shadow, let me see if I can show a shadow right here. My lighting is not perfect, but you see how this shadow is a little bit, see, I have light coming from here and here, but do you see how it's darker right next to that pencil and then it diffuses? Like see, it's dark right there and then diffuses out that way. That's what you're doing here. So you just make it a little bit darker right here. You can kind of match the tone of the tree almost like this. And through a little simple kind of shading, I don't know, whatever concept or trick. Now here's a darker blue, which is a little bit closer to the color of the tree, that Prussian blue. What is this? Blue violet. And see, I'm kind of making it a little bit darker like that, right there. If you want to match it up a little bit more, then bring some of this color up into the tree too, like this. All right. And this is a little bit of a warmer blue. This right here is kind of temperatureless. Well, it's cool, it's a cool temperature. So if you want to just kind of tweak your temperature scheme in a very easy way, then just, bring a little bit of this tone into the piece like this. I mean, it's not a set, area to do. I'm just kind of reiterating a little bit of where I've already applied it. You can add some of it in the shadow if you want to, like that. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so here's our little figure right here, okay? Let's go like this, and we want to have our little figure child casting a shadow too, because they're not like a ghost here. What do you guys think about that jacket? Little red jacket or something like that? Or should we stay kind of within the theme of the color and just make it blue? Or should we make them stand out more? Maybe pink or something might be interesting. The child is kind of genderless right now. Okay, let's go with a little bit of black here, okay? I'm gonna go with a really light shade of it. I'm going to put a little bit on one side of the tree trunk too, I think. So that the trees are a little bit more, kind of three-dimensional looking maybe. That. Okay, shadows. A little bit of that black. I like that. Alright. I like that blue here, or that warm blue. I'm gonna fill in a little bit more with that. Looks a little bit softer and more inviting, I think. I might have made that shadow's a little bit dark right there. I guess it's not too bad. I'm creating a little bit more contrast in here. This is a really light blue, so it's not like a ton of contrast, but okay, let's see here. Bonnie uses her papers for die cutting and making cards. Well, you're utilizing your paper then, that's good. Your love of paper, of all that paper was for making die cuts and paper dolls. Ah. Did you ever do anything called paper piecing? I think that's what it was called, when making like layouts and things like that. My wife used to do that. I don't think she's done that for a long time though. And plus she has like a Cricut now, so I don't think she's like spending time like doing all those like paper piecing like little figures together. Used to annoy scrapbook store. I'd go on crop nights and stamp my own background. 12. Nicole would do her own 12 by 12s. Work out photo cropping techniques from magazines, and everyone would say, how? Yeah, those are fun times. Do people still have like crop nights anywhere without the stores around, Answering my question on using what I have, but had to have your stamps since I found your channel. We can't wait to see what you do, Bonnie. Cardstock and paper is addictive. That's true. So the thing about, papers and things like that too, the papers for me, I'm kinesthetic, okay? So I mean, I'll see something online. I'll think, hey, I want to get that. But if I get paper in my hands, it's a different story. Yeah, that's why, like I said, if I go into a paper store or, stores that had paper, if I can touch it, you know, major difference to me. So I don't know. I haven't been getting as much, because I'm not in, there's stores aren't around as much. So, but yeah, those metallics and iridescent ones, with the lighting and glow coming off of it too. You know what I mean? And the touch of it, you know, it's paper. It's real kinesthetic. So like textural types of things too. So it could be visually textural too. You know, which I loved. All right, so I don't think splatter painting this is going to. I don't know. Maybe we'll try a little bit of it. I don't know how much this white pen is going to show up on here either because it's really light. I'd be adding white to light, but let's just see if it does show up a little bit in here. Oh, yeah, it's super minimal. Here, let me go into some of these shadows. You know how snow kind of glistens? So I'm going into areas that I've added a little bit of tone. You're not going to be able to see this because it's going to be really subtle here, probably on camera. But I'm going into the areas. Okay, so when I see this now, it's like, okay, maybe I should go a little bit darker in some of these shadow areas right here a little bit more, because if I want to add this white pen in here and have it a little bit more visible, I need to create a little bit more contrast between it and the background. But I think that looks pretty good. It's kind of breaking up some of this. Let me add it. I'll add it into the, some of these shadow areas too, where it starts to, kind of taper off. I'll put, kind of a little reflective, kind of shimmering light into that area. Here's this little water area, and that can have a little bit of sparkle. Okay, so if that doesn't show up, let's try the pigment ink in here. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so we're doing this type of thing, and I'm doing it on this paper right here. Doing that background saved a lot of time in here, but inevitably what you ask yourself is, okay, does this scene look better having done it on this paper? Is it better looking than me with the things that I could have done for this, a similar tone in here on a white piece of paper, okay? And for me, I think the answer is yes. First of all, I never would have had all these little types of, kind of snowflake elements in anything that I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to add, light layer of tone around there and then reverse stamp into it or do like bleaching or something like that, which could have been done. But, we're talking about a lot more time doing something like that. So, this pre-printed paper is really good for that. Okay, so a little bit of white pigment ink right here, and I'm going to add this down at the base of some of these trees. Like, it's a little bit of fog here. And this is really a similar impression right here, right? Because I just stamped it all out in a uniform Prussian blue tone. So, I mean, this could have been done in the impressions too. I could have wiped some of the ink off of the trees, but I didn't know, the direction I wanted to take it in. So, if I do this again, I'll know. Maybe I'll do that. But okay, so this is where the lighting was coming from a little bit more. So, due to these shadow directions. So I'm going to add in a little bit more light to this area of the tree. So see that it's just a little bit lighter right there. All right, so if this is where the lighting is coming from, right over here, then maybe over on this. See, this tree is a little bit more distant because it's a little bit higher up on the, the composition. So if I kind of lighten this up a little bit, it looks a little bit more distant like that. See that little variation right there? I mean, these are subtle things, you know what I mean? These little, I think, look, like I said, I think it look fine without it. But, you know, if someone wants to do something like this, I mean, that's, you know, on these cards here, that, you know, they're minimal. And if you have like an extra, I don't know, you know, whatever this pigment ink, white pigment ink, edition like took like a minute or something like that. So if you do all of these, you know, it adds up in time. But, you know, if you have like a minute, then do this. You know, if you have 2 minutes, you know, you can add in this little extra thing or something like that. All right, let me see. Did anyone have any opinions on that child's jacket here? Ginger got a lot of colored sheets, bought at 10 for $1. That was like a, that sounds like a going out of, is that like a 12 by 12 individual sheets you're talking about? It sounds like it. Now that sounds like a going out of business sale though, right? Or is that just like a clearance sale? Let's see, Nicole has some ideas for Bonnie. Fold it, tear it, crumble it, ink swipe it. Add paint splatters, stencils, collage, cut it up, and make a book. Oh, wow. You're saying to do that with every sheet she has, Nicole? No, I'm just joking. Red is cool. Okay, there's one vote for red. MJ. It looks very much like a Banksy. Red would make it pop. Okay. How about around the edge of the sled? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'd want it right in the sled though, so that it's like a reddish, yeah, like a reddish black. Okay, so that sounds like a good idea. You know, is if I would have thought about that before, it'd be interesting to do this jacket red, okay, in that little open area, and the rest of it in shadow. But then instead of coloring that sled black, I think a red, you know, coloring, inking up that one portion of the stamp and stamping out in red, that would have been awesome. That's a good idea, MJ, in terms of the coloring. I'm a little bit late. I don't think, okay, so that being said, I can add a red paint pen over it. I don't know how that'll look. I think from a textural standpoint, it'll just like lift it completely off the page. I don't know if it'll look like it's set back in there, you know what I mean? Jen still does paper piecing. I like the look of that paper piecing, you know? I just wasn't quite sure if people were still doing it or not. All right, so let's just add a little bit of red jacket. We'll have a little bit of a warm red. Let's see. When I do these little colors like this, I don't like to use just like one tone. I usually like to have it a little bit more kind of varied here. I'm going to put a little bit of let's see. I want a little bit of a warmish red, so here's a little bit of a, it looks like warm red to me. Nah, it looks a little bit more orange. There's this color called warm red, which is the color of the Domino's pizza red. And I know that because when I was in graphic arts in high school, I worked for Domino's Pizza, and that that Francis was asking me, hey Kevin, can you print up some like those things that those magnetic things that people can stick to their car that would say Domino's on it. So I got some of that magnetic like sheeting or something like that, and I silk screened like Domino's pizza on the side. But that was when I was like really became aware of like, oh, like logo designs and how specific like colors have to be. Corporate colors. Okay, so there's a little bit of that. Let me see something here too. I'm going to come in here with a little bit of a... Yeah, that one's a little bit dry. Some of my pens are starting to go dry for the first time. My alcohol ink, nah, it's a little bit yellow. Okay, here we go. I can't tell. Here, let me try that on the sled here. I'll try to warm up the sled a little bit. Well, I'm thinking about, when you mentioned that red sled, even though it was a black and white movie, I'm thinking of Citizen Kane. Wasn't it? It was a sled, right? Rosebud. All right, let's see. That sled needs a little bit of a atmosphere too, so let's go with a little bit of this right here. Bonnie does paper piece. Oh, you guys are doing paper piecing still. That's cool. Do something with paper piecing and scenic stamping, you know? Combine, you know, utilize those, you know, that skill set into scenic stamping. Like a paper piece in front of something, you know, giving it a real dimension. I think it'd be really cool. All right, so I'm adding a little bit more of this around it. I really like that look here on that background tree, huh? Okay, so see, this is what I'm doing. I'm adding a little bit more of it at the base, and then as it moves up, it's a little bit darker. I don't know, I have some of it up there too, but so like that. So you kind of transition things a little bit like that. And how about for this one in the real distance, let's go a little bit more extreme. Let's really add a lot of that lighting on the whatever, the right side of it, okay? Because remember that lighting is coming from right there. So see this right here? All right, you know, if I'm trying to keep this card under 15 minutes, I'm not going nuts with this, but this is like really super fun to do. You know, just altering, you know, those subtle little look at that thing glow now, you know what I mean? And that, so we've made this glow. To me, that's what this looked like anyway. Right here, we have this vignette, right? So this is our light source, you know. So, you know, we're not having to create like light and dark or something like that, or, you know, create, you know, this kind of vignette around here. But we're just kind of going with this paper right here. So I've added in the shadows. The shadows to me really did, you know, quite a bit to it. But then, see, we're doing it with dark in light. Okay, so you're creating shadows because shadows kind of are, you know, whatever, there's a result of a light source. And then we went in with light on top of that, which is just, you know, some white pigment ink right in here. So I think those trees look a lot better now. Look how varied they are. So each one of these trees looks different from one another rather than just stamping them all in, you know, one uniform tone of blue. All right, so like I said, I think it looked pretty good before, but I don't know, I think it looks a lot better now. And it's more atmospheric now too, so I don't know, you know, I would map this often. Here's a, you know, a little bit of white. That, I think, would be a good idea, unless that's too light. You can't even see that white up there. And you go like something like this. This is like glitter paper. And not that one. I'm just kind of curious with this paper. You know, this is a foil. about that. It doesn't look bad, though. Let's see. This is a piece of super dark navy blue right here. There's that right there. I'm not sure. I don't know. Did anyone of those kind of stand out a little bit more to like the majority of you? You know. All right, that fly's flying around me. I'm gonna have to get rid of that. That's okay. I don't know. I'll figure something out here, unless you guys have something that you want to you demand one of these colors being used, and then I'll do it. Maybe it could be like a real thin version of that. I've never done like a real thin one like that. Like that right there. It's kind of interesting like that. See that little bit down there? Yeah. This is the same size piece here, but that little bit around there kind of looks, I think it looks pretty good. That little strip of that kind of reflective thing, and then go dark like that. I think that would be a pretty cool card. Jen's going to going to crop with girlfriends. Okay, so it's friends crop then, right? That's fun. There was a lot of, wasn't there? There was a lot of, those. Did you guys used to go to those scrapbooking conventions where I think the Friday nights were usually the designated nights, right? I don't know why, but scrapbook shows, they were oftentimes on like Friday, right, and Saturday. Where stamp shows were always Saturday, Sunday. I don't know, maybe people, didn't want to have it like for church or something like that, or on Sundays. Although people would come after church, and the stamp shows. But yeah, I remember those big crops going on at scrapbook shows. Do they still do those? Okay, let's see. That is the way I buy fabric for quilting. Is as bad. Oh, quilting. I know some people that were in some stampers that were quilters, and they kind of oscillated back and forth. A lot of people were into quilting. The people that quilted and stamped, they were into quilting before stamping, from the ones that I knew. And I felt that that quilting background, I felt that really gave people kind of a pretty nice, a different kind of a foundational, I don't know, whatever, know-how with textural types of things. You know what I mean? But, for quilting, I don't know, they just had a really good feel for it. And they used stamps. A couple of the ones that I knew, they used stamps too in a different way than most people use stamps going for certain types of impressions. Like they would do like repeated impressions using something. You know what I mean? So they might get more textural forms. It's like what I'm starting to do with my little tiny rock stamp a lot more. But yeah, they had a really good feel for it. And dimension, they went from 3 dimensions and they're going to 2 dimensions. So they started applying some of the, kind of those 3-dimensional types of aesthetics into, basically, a 2-dimensional world. But I didn't often know that, but, sometimes when I'd see someone's pieces and I'd ask them, did you have like background in whatever painting or something like that? Well, sometimes it would be things like quilting or something of that sort, like a 3-dimensional medium, ceramics, you know what I mean? Or something like that. They used the 2-dimensional, types of media just differently. Than others when they were doing it. They might be doing 3-dimensional types of applications too with stamps, but when I saw it in 2 dimensions, sometimes it would kind of stand out a little bit, Anyway, let's see here. Glad you like it, MJ. gingivotive to the red, like the guy who puts red balloon in his painting. Makes me, oh, Schindler's List, right? Oh my God, yeah. That's, now I'm going to be thinking about that, Phyllis, there, with that Schindler's List, with that red jacket, huh? Uh, when I see this piece, though, I don't want to be thinking of a Schindler's List, you know. I need to do that little sled there in red. So I think about Citizen Kane instead of that Schindler's List now. But you're totally right about that one. For people that didn't see that Schindler's, we're not going to tell you what that reference means there, because that's not a happy one there. It's going to be a great winter day when you're. It looks like you're seeing Kevin. Yeah, huh? And little fun little sledding trip right there up to the slope of wherever this kid goes. They're a journey of 1,000 miles. I think we mean their lifetime, though. In the sense of going sledding on your own. When it was absolutely fine, in the day for maybe in some areas, you can send your kid out, to go play, and they come back at sundown still. Does anyone still do that around, anywhere? That was me growing up, though. We'd go out and hike for miles or something like that, and we just have to come back, when before it, got too dark out. Yeah, Spielberg and Nakagawa. All right, folks. So, anyways, let's do a little quick recap here. On these pieces, using the pre-printed papers. These are the pieces that were done earlier. These are the pieces that were done in the last couple days, like this. Just your pre-printed vintage paper, like that. I need to go. I need to keep my eye open for other types of pattern papers too. I think a real kind of snowflakey one, one that's much more extreme than this one would look really interesting. These ones right here, I'm going to format with my gold, which I like a lot, But just stamping alone on this type of paper, if I'm doing something like, okay, so if I'm doing like a winter scene, on here, I'd probably do it like on Christmas cards or something like that, if you have like something that says, Merry Christmas, or I don't know, whatever, you're stamping on here. I think it would look really cool just to stamp on this type of surface. You just do it with black ink. And then if I had the word stamp or whatever you're going to be doing in there, Merry Christmas or whatever. And if you want to do something really fast, in terms of, some sort of application, I think that that splatter painted little snow, you can do like 20 of these cards really fast. If you want it, to be a handmade card or something of that sort, in a snowy type of thing, then I, do a little bit of these larger little dots like that. And I think that would be really fun to do. You're not going to do like this like 20 times or something like that. But if it was a quarter page, you can have this scenario like right here on a quarter page of this. And you just put that little slider right there, and I think that would be really cool. The saying might change or something like this, but this to me says like winter. And then if you wanted to do that little element with that little white in there, I think these cards would be, really fast. You can really, crank them out. If I was doing 20 of these, I wouldn't be adding in the shadows, I don't think. Although, if I was doing a bunch of them, it would go really fast, and especially on a quarter page format. Or something like this too would be really cool, and you do like one little crystal up there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think some like a couple little crystals up here would be kind of interesting. They have like amber ones too. I don't know if that that would look better than like just the clear ones or not. But then again, if you're matting this off, now that I think about it too, like something like this. And if you put a couple of those amber little crystals, it would really pair well with the gold cardstock framing or whatever, mounting on there. Huh. I don't have any of those amber little crystals though, but if you can get one that's kind of gold, I don't know if the metallic gold ones would look good, it looked like a gold nugget up there or something like that. It would be reflective, but if you can have something a little bit more crystallish that would twinkle, then you substitute that for that and put a little like star up there, maybe kind of interesting. I don't know. So just, I don't know, some fun, quick types of cards. Again, using your pre-printed papers, some of which some of you have like 1,000 of. And you can probably have some really cool ones, do square ones and stuff like that, or do it. So if you have those little like die cut things too, it'd be really cool. Is this one was like this? I don't know. You wouldn't have might not have room for the quote, but okay. So let's see if it's something like this right here, like a round one, or those little ornament ones like this, And if you did it on those like pre-printed papers or something like that, like if this snowflake patterning was like going through the whole thing, and then you stamp your little character right there, I think that'd be really cool too. Rounds and ovals in different shapes, or even squares like that, or you can do, something like this, but it's, square, but it's, in that diamond shape like that, and you have this area like this, and the trees on the side, and that could be like a little ornament or something like that. That might be kind of cool. So I don't know. I'm gonna do more investigating of these surfaces. I think there's other things that could possibly be done to them. I know, I can probably add in some colors, so I'll probably try experimenting with that a little bit more. Maybe it's just like muted colors in here, not like in this maybe nighttime scenario, or I could, but just some green tones in here. I think that, might look kind of interesting. I don't know about paint pens, maybe on there. I think this one would be able to handle those paint pens if I just did those little red or pink little blossoms up there, or something like that, or like these apples, remaining out. I don't know what, the red little elements up there to go with that little red jacket. That would be cool too. And then you can do that, that red sled in there again, moving it out of the Schindler's List, kind of a scenario. Bonnie does art quilts. That sounds great. Let's see. Off at sunup, back at sundown. That's the way it went, We weren't even like taking out like tons of stuff too, like, hey, make sure you're hydrated, or something like that, We'd come back like super thirsty, but, I don't know. Maybe I do need to, yeah, I'm sure she would be fine with that. We share some stuff, but I don't know. Like if I need something. Hey, can you cut me out some more ovals or something like that? She'll do it. But sometimes we just don't think to go into each other's supplies. Although her craft room is basically the whole joke about people's things. Your craft room is like basically a craft store. In terms of the number of supplies, and possibly unopened too, Clear embossing powder could. Clear embossing powder, huh? That's another good idea there. MJ, MJ's going to do some of these examples right here, and we want to see them. Send us have a link in the next live stream. We want to see some of these things like that. But that'd be a good idea, yeah. Embossing on here on these different types of things. I'm looking at this tree now too, this black one. I think if that tree was a little bit more of that tone right there, I think that might be a little bit better. Hey, let me do something right here. This tree is like, see, this when I start to kind of wrapping things up and kind of thinking about some concepts here, sometimes it's like, oh, I need to tweak this. Let me add, because that looked really good there. And I think I have enough white in here now with the starlight, and little snow in here. I think we can add this in here like this, right? Where it doesn't look like weird. So I added a little bit of that in there. And let's add a little bit around the water. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I could do this or not on this, on the this type of paper, because there was no white in here, but I think maybe adding in the white elements with the, you know, the paint pens and stuff kind of make it possible to add in this white lighting. And what I'm saying is, you know, because there isn't like white lighting on this type of paper, that's the lightest tone and it's a warm tone, so you typically have a warm light, not white, you know what I mean, which might be too stark for it. But if you add enough of those little white elements, maybe you can do it. I think that looks pretty good. Let's try it right here. Like around this fence. This fence really stamped out really dark right there, so adding that little bit like that. Alright, well that answered that. I think that looks pretty decent. I guess it gives a little bit of a something in common with those fireflies too. Just having that little, see that right there? Doesn't that look kind of, you know, kind of nicer like that? Right in here too. See, it's a little bit less harsh of a kind of an overall tree like that now. It just, I mean, it's really soft there at the base like that. Oh, here too. Let's see. Since it's working out okay, let's add a little bit of a glowing, whatever, North Star. I don't know if it's the North Star, but it's definitely a dominant one. But see how that star, you know, that star is kind of glowing a little bit more now. So I think those little subtle things helped out there. Let's see what this one looks like. Like that. Oh, look at that. It got lighter, or darker there, I think, when it dried. Which could be a good thing. Okay, see that now. It's a little bit lighter like that. So it kind of opens up the scene a little bit too. When you have like something that's going from dark to light like that, you tend to go in towards the light anyways. All right. Good ideas, everyone. It gives me something to think about, you know, kind of in exploring this, these types of papers. I might have to go into, you know, see what other papers my wife has. There's a lot of them. And see what, if she's willing to part with anything. I don't know, maybe she'll give it to me on like on sale or something like that. Let's see here. Shapes would be, yeah, great ornaments. You know, so those ornaments, you know what I mean? They're smaller pieces. So if you have something that's already kind of inherently established in the background, I think that would make for a faster piece too. You can do this, those ornaments too. You can do things like, if it's an ornament too, on those crickets, you know how you can make those shapes in any size you want and have it cut out? You can have it cut out like a little border thing like that in the shape of that ornament, you know, whatever shape it is, you know what I mean? Those things like that. And then cut out your paper a little bit smaller so you can just like tape it or glue it right down in there. I think that would be pretty cool. And like I said, if it's an ornament, I think it would be really cool to have those little twinkly elements in there or something of that sort. Or you can, I don't know, see, we haven't even done this. See that tree, you know, you see about like clear embossing. You can emboss this tree, like gold elements in here, or just, you know, tree and something else. All the rest of the stuff might be a little bit overkill, but keep it really simple and do some embossing of the imagery, you know, right over the top of this type of paper right here, and do it in gold and then mat it off in gold. I don't know, stuff like that might be kind of cool. Let's see here. Kids' Inheritance, Stampscapes, Stamps, and Paper. they're inheriting millions worth, and they're in those Stampscapes stamps. My grandkids would come to my house and raid my space for school projects. Yeah, yeah. That's one of those things. If someone's in a, if someone, if there's kids, that have anyone, if they're related to anyone that did like stamping or scrapbooking, man, they had it made in terms of, materials or something like that, or if any type of projects that required, coloring, gluing, cutting. These days, with the crickets and stuff like that, man, um, you know, that's a wealth of both knowledge and materials. You know what I mean? They're not going to you're not going to the store anymore. We're going to Bonnie's craft room. We're going fun stuff. All right, folks. Thanks for joining in. Just some quick cards, a little bit less quick in here, in the live stream. I didn't want to come up with, just start cranking out a bunch of like 10-minute cards, or something like that. I wanted to see where we can kind of take, some of these pieces. And I think I've answered that in terms of just some of the traditional types of techniques that I've been doing all along. I wasn't quite sure on this warm tone paper too, with like white elements and things like that, and adding like that foggy element. Like I don't have like a tan brilliance pad or something like that, or like a beige. Even if they have it or not, I'm not really quite sure. But I think it looks pretty good on there, and just doing some of these other types of elements and into these pieces, going for a little bit of variation and things like that. So really minor stuff that can make a big difference in some of these instances. I think the lighter it is, the more it's going to stand out. But yeah, it was kind of nice, doing these types of things where I'm not doing a bunch of like toning in, and ink applications on the perimeters and things like that, which we can come up with a lot more variety like that. But, if you don't have the time to do some of these types of things, and going for these types of, textural types of background, whatever, background foundations or anything like that, I don't know. We need to start dipping into that, our stored paper sometime and utilizing it. All right, folks, have a great rest of evening and weekend, or whenever we see you again. I might be coming on again live sometime over the weekend. I'm not sure. But I don't know. I'm going to go through some other things and see what else I have that I have had sitting around for a while. And I want to give them a try. I want to try simplification on some of it too. And, trying to come up with the most dynamic types of applications in really short spans of time, using the different imagery. So, yeah. So I don't know. I got the wheels spinning here with a lot of new ideas to try here. Bonnie's got a 16 by 16 space floor to ceiling. It didn't pour out into other areas. All right. Good night, everyone. Sleep well. Or have a nice stamping marathon. Who is going to that crop tomorrow? Was that you, Jen? Or, have fun with that crop tomorrow with the friends. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right. Thanks again, everyone. Drop me a note if you have any questions or whatnot about some pieces. Or, if you ever come up with some stuff and you have some really cool types of papers or something like that, I'd just love to see them, like even if you don't do anything with them right away, I'd love to see some of these different types of paper patterns out there. Send it to me in a IM or an email or something like that. Just take a little picture of it. And I don't know, I might have to check some of it out and see about picking some of it up. But if you think you have some pieces that would be really good for scenic stamping, send it over to me. I probably can't find it, all these 12 by 12 pieces anymore, but if I can find something similar, I'd be interested. All right, folks. Hope to see you in the next live.